After making this book sleeve, I got a comment asking whether we can sew a tote bag in the same way. Answer is yes, and that's exactly what we are going to do today. This particular tote bag measures 16 by 15 inches and it's a lined tote bag with no interfacing. First, let's see what the materials and tools are. Now here are the fabric measurements. This is my outside fabric and it measures 17 by 16 inches. You'll need 2 from that. This is going to be a simple tote, so I'm not going to use any interfacing. If you do, you'll need 2 interface pieces measuring the same. As I said, this is a lined tote bag and we'll need 2 lining fabrics measuring the same as the outside fabric, 17 by 16 inches. All these fabrics are pre-washed and ironed cotton fabric. Now for the straps, I have cut 2 fabric pieces measuring 4 by 26 inches. Assuming you have all the other essentials, let's get to sewing, starting with the straps. Place the fabric for the strap wrong side up and then fold it in half. To keep the crease, start to give it a press from one end to the other. You can just press it with your hands, but when it comes to a longer piece of fabric like this one, it'll be much easier to iron it. Now unfold the piece and then fold one half, touching the mid crease like this, and give it a press to keep the fold. Continue doing that from one end to the other. After you have pressed one half, do the same for the other half as well. Now leaving those 2 halves folded, fold the entire fabric piece in half and this will be one of the straps for the bag. You can use a couple of pins to hold the fold, and as we need 2 straps for the bag, follow the same steps for the other fabric piece as well. For each of the straps, we are going to sew straight along both the open margin and the closed margin. I'm leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance and do a little back stitch at the beginning like we always do and just sew straight. In the finished tote bag, these straps will end up 1 by 25 inches in size and feel free to adjust the measurements as you please. Now if you are thinking this is too much work for you, you can simply use webbings as straps. When you reach the other end of the first margin, do a little back stitch to end the sewing. Finally, trim all threads. Then move on to the other margin and sew along that margin as we did with the first one. This will give an extra strength to your straps and it also gives a more finished look for the straps. The good thing about making your own strap is then you can select any fabric of your choice for more variety and that makes your tote bag stand out. After you are done with one strap, follow the same steps with the other fabric piece and you will get 2 straps at the end. Next step is attaching these straps to our tote bag. First, lay flat the right side of either outside or lining fabric facing up. I have my lining fabric piece facing right side up. Now if your fabric has a design, make sure those are in the right position. On the top side of the fabric, mark 3.5 inches away from both corners and use a fabric marking pen and a ruler. Now this is where we are going to place the straps, 3.5 inches away from both ends. Take one of the straps and place the 2 ends at those marked points. Make sure you place them equally spaced from both corners of the top side. That's the important thing. Pick your own measurements and it doesn't have to be 3.5 inches. Have a close look at how I place the straps, and this is how I know my straps are not going to be twisted at the end. I keep it in a shape of the letter U. Now place the right side of the outside fabric on top. It's like making a sandwich. Make sure 2 fabric pieces are aligning with each other and also the right sides of the 2 layers have to face each other. Then start to pin along the top side, holding the lining fabric, strap and the outside fabric. Flip the outside layer and check whether you have positioned the strap correctly before pinning it. Now we are going to sew along this top side, leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Do the same with the remaining lining fabric, strap and the outside fabric piece. 2 sandwiches are ready to sew at this point, and let's go one by one. As always, do a little back stitch at the beginning and remove the pins as you go. Now if you want to give more strength to the straps, you can sew back and forth in those areas, but I'm not going to do that here. When you reach the other end, do a little back stitch to end the sewing. Finally, trim the thread and do the same with the other one as well. At this point, we have both layers ready and it's time to assemble the tote bag. First, unfold both layers and place the right side of the one layer on top of the right side of the other layer. Since these are larger fabric pieces, you will need more space and control compared to our book sleeve project. The other important thing is you need to align the outside fabric of one layer with the outside fabric of the other layer. Same goes for the lining fabric in both layers. They need to be aligned with each other. Press everything with your hands, and I also would like to spread the seams whenever I can to keep the fabric layers even. Now start to pin 2 layers together, starting with the seam area. It will make things easier to align. I would also check where the straps are just to make sure they are out of the way while sewing. After you have pinned all around the 2 layers, mark about 3 to 4 inches of space at the bottom side of the lining fabric area. And no, you can't leave this space from the outside fabric part, and you'll see why later. Now starting from one of the markings, we are going to sew all the way around until we reach the other marked point. We are leaving this space to turn right side out at the end. For this step, I'm leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance and do a little back stitch at the beginning. Sew straight and remove the pins or clips as you go. Now when you reach a corner, stop the sewing and raise the foot. Then pivot and lower the foot again. You can go ahead and start to sew straight now. Because I have a basic sewing machine, I always try to keep it slow when sewing thicker fabric areas like the seam area in this one. I think you have also noticed that I spreaded the seam to keep even thickness, which helps in sewing bulky areas. If you are interested in learning how to sew a tote bag in regular way, we have a video for that too. It's a lined tote bag with interfacing, and it also has a box bottom, which we didn't do with this one. I'll leave the link for that video in the description. When you reach the other marked point, do a little back stitch to end the sewing. Finally, trim the threads and it's time to turn the right side out. There is one small step before that, and we are going to reduce the bulky parts at the 4 corners by simply cutting small triangle shapes at the corner. Now be extra careful not to damage any of the stitches while you are doing so. Now use that unsewn opening to turn the right side out, and 4 inches is a very comfortable space to turn things without any difficulty. After this point, you'll see that everything has come together nicely. Now when it comes to the corners, insert a small rod through the opening and poke out the edges. Be careful not to damage the fabric or any of the stitches. We are one more step away and it's time to enclose the opening we left. Press everything flat with your hands and especially keep the seams at the unsewn area nice and flat like this. Now sew along the opening we left, and it has to be closer to the margin in order to properly enclose the opening. Leave about a 1/4 inch or less seam allowance. As always, do a little back stitch at the beginning and at the ending. I think at this point you understand why we left the opening on the lining fabric side. If we left it on the outside fabric side, it's going to show and then it wouldn't be a nicely finished tote bag. This way it's hidden inside the bag. As you can see now, everything is completed in both outside and lined fabric bags. Trim any hanging threads and now you can safely tuck in the lining fabric bag into the outside bag. In case you think sewing a tote bag is hard, I bet now you think differently. You can stop at this point or you can give a good press to keep everything in a bit of a professional way. You can also go ahead and sew around the opening edge to give straps an extra strength. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Because of that, I'm going to press the entire bag and especially the opening end. You can skip all these steps if you're okay with that. Now it's time to sew around the opening end and you can start at any point. I'm leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance and as always do a little back stitch at the beginning. As I mentioned earlier, for people with basic sewing machines like myself, be a little careful when you sew the too bulky ends. In such cases, I usually increase stitch length to 3 before start. Just a small tip. Since we are already in summer, these kind of simple tote bags always come in handy to carry all your belongings. You might not need thousands of tote bags, but you will definitely need at least one. So why not give it a try? Do a little back stitch when you reach the end and trim all the threads. With that, you got yourself a simple lined tote bag. This tote is a medium-sized bag and because of that, it's gonna fit into almost all kinds of occasions. I think with this fabric, it's perfect for a beach or lake trip. The good news is it even fits a towel. I hope you like this video and please subscribe to the channel if you do. Thank you all for watching and I'll join you in the next one.